Canada was one of 65 nations that did not vote against a UN resolution denouncing the American government's recognition of Jerusalem as Israel's capital. Ottawa decided to abstain from the General Assembly vote earlier this week.
This vote will be remembered.
U.S. Ambassador Nikki Haley says the vote will make no difference in plans to move the embassy. She's also sent invitations to the ambassadors from those 65 nations to attend a reception on January 3rd to thank them for their friendship with the United States. Dick Jones is a former U.S. ambassador to Israel. He joins us now from Fort Myers, Florida. Now, Dick, what are your thoughts on the countries who abstain from voting?
Well, I've looked over the list, and most of them are relatively small countries, a lot of island countries, a few Latin countries, only a handful of European countries either sided with the U.S., either through abstaining or by just not being present.
What do you make of Nikki Haley's statement that the U.S. will remember who did not support them?
Oh, that's not that uncommon, to tell you the truth. I remember when I was working in the State Department that sometimes people did rack-ups of who voted with us and so on. And presumably it informs aid decisions because, after all, we never have enough money in the budget for all the demands that we have for assistance. So it can make a difference, but it's at the margin. And when you look at the countries that voted against the United States, in other words, for the resolution, most of them are not major recipients of economic aid. Some of them are, but most of them are either recipients of humanitarian aid, which is very difficult to justify cutting, or security assistance. They're actually our partners in security assistance. You look at countries like Afghanistan, Iraq, Egypt, Jordan. All of those receive major amounts of security assistance because we're working with their militaries. So I find it hard to believe that we would make major cuts in those programs. So I think that there won't be much difference, but some economic programs could suffer.
Okay, now Palestinian leader Mahmoud Abbas is rejecting the U.S. as a peacemaker. What do you make of this?
He has to at this stage. I don't think it's more than posturing for his constituents, but time will tell. Particularly early on, immediately after the decision, he has to say these sorts of things just to maintain his own credibility with his own people.
Let's talk about the significance of the U.S. being condemned over Jerusalem. Let's put this in perspective.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's unprecedented. I mean, it was a major break with past American policy. There's no question of that. And it does make it much more difficult for the Palestinians to cooperate with us. Now, the hope, of course, is that it makes it easier for Israel to be cooperative and that we can begin making some progress. As I say, I've said before, since I'm not privy to everything that's going on behind the scenes, I can't really judge between the two arguments, although a priori I suspect it's going to make things more difficult.
And just quickly, Benjamin Netanyahu has rejected this vote and said he appreciates that countries refuse to participate in this theater. Is that what it boils down to, political theater here?
Well, there's a bit of that. Although if you read actually read the resolution, how it was written, it'd be very difficult for any country that supported the two-state solution for years to disagree with what was the way the resolution was worded. It didn't single the United States out. I don't even think it necessarily mentioned Israel. It was just called on all states, to honor the UN resolutions and to do nothing that would jeopardize the final status negotiations, and that, of course, Jerusalem should be part of those negotiations. So for a lot of countries, it was like restating mom and apple pie. And I think that's why they got so many votes in favor of it. But it is interesting that they got a lot more abstentions and just no-shows, not present, than they expected. They were predicting they'd get 150 votes in favor, and I think they got 120 something. So I'd say that there was an impact on the show of hands through the statements that were made by Nikki Haley and the president.
Okay, Dick Jones, thanks for your time.
Welcome.